could be alone between city lights. We don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. I'm very happy to be here with you on a Monday evening. Happy to be here talking about FPV with you. We're going to be taking your questions. I'm going to be taking your questions and hopefully answering them, although not 100% hit rate on correct answers. Almost 100% hit rate on answers at all. Oh, we'll be taking questions from the chat. We'll be taking questions from the Discord server here on the right side of the screen. My beautiful patrons. Yes, feed me. And I'll be reading your super chats. We've already got one from Scotty Camera. We'll get that right out of the way right here at the beginning. Thanks, Scotty Camera, for a $10 super chat and saying thanks for keeping me flying. That's how that works. If you want to leave a super chat, hit the $sign down here at the bottom of the screen, and I will be reading those a little later in the stream. But for now, Blunty is going to pick some questions. Blunty, the man off camera. How you doing, Blunty?
Good. How's it going?
It's good.
I had a couple of people ask me yesterday why I'm not on camera on this show, and it's because I'm the producer of this show. I'm doing all the behind-the-scenes stuff. I'm queuing up the questions and making it a little bit smoother for you to run a nice little Q&A.
Yeah, I mostly it's just that I've always done these live streams by myself, and so when I brought you in, because we were talking, I'll tell a little story about how this happened. Maybe people will find it interesting. We were talking about ways to make the live streams better. And one of the things that you do, in case people don't know, is you run the Livestream Clips channel, where you take recordings of my live streams and you slice out clips, and you post them over there. You know, I figured Linus Tech Tips does it. Why not me? And we're talking about ways that, like, you were like talking about ways that we could get higher quality clips and better questions. I don't know. How would you put it?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I just felt like it'd be a little bit better if everything was a little more organized and you could just answer questions and interface with the chat, and not have to worry about figuring out who asked what and when the super chats came in and all that stuff. So.
Yeah. But so the main reason you're not on camera is just I've always done these Q&A live streams by myself, and you came in as kind of a call screener / producer, and I thought the format probably needed to stay the same. But also, the more I think about it, the more I realize that, like, it frees you up. You're not on camera, and so you can be just like typing in the chat, reading the chat, queuing up questions, and just sort of managing things behind the scenes. Which you wouldn't be it would just be like half the screen of you not paying attention to me and, like, doing your job. Yep. So, but I certainly wouldn't want anyone to think there was any bad blood or anything like that. Right?
100%.
Not from my end. All right, good. We got him on record. Everything is fine. So let's go ahead and answer some questions. Wait, one more thing. If I don't get to your question tonight, please don't take it personally. Everyone is welcome to email me, jb@joshuabardwell.com. I like to get that out of the way at the beginning, because sometimes people say, I've asked my question 3 or 4 times, Bardwell hasn't answered it. There's various reasons why that might happen, but the main one is that just there's not enough time to answer all the questions. Also, some questions are more interesting to hear me talk about, and other questions are like, we're going to talk about it offline and I'll still help you, but it's not that interesting for the whole chat. So if I don't get to you, definitely just email me, jb@joshuabardwell.com, and I'll do my best to help. Let's do it. Mr. Velocity wants to know, what's the best prop size for a sub 250 gram freestyle build in your opinion? Mr. Velocity, I have a very strong opinion about this, believe it or not. And my very strong opinion is 3.5 inch. I say that because you can build a 4-inch sub 250. You can build a 5-inch sub 250. I think the biggest quad I've ever seen advertised as sub 250, I'm pretty sure once upon a time I saw a 7-inch sub 250. I can't remember who made it. The problem is that the bigger you get, if you have to stay under that 250 gram weight limit, the more compromises you make in terms of durability. Okay? And for me, 3.5 inches is the place where you still are under the 250 gram limit, but you haven't really given up anything substantial in having to stay under that limit, right? Any bigger than that, I feel like you start having to make compromises. For example, 4-inch sub 250 builds will almost always use a very lightweight motor like a 2004 motor. 2004 motors are not durable. They are great big, relatively large diameter motors with a little 2mm shaft, and the larger diameter the motor is, the sort of more leverage is placed on it when it gets whacked, and they just don't last very well. When you go down to the 3.5 inch props, you're using, I don't know, what are you using? Like, maybe like 1607, or I don't know what. I actually am like a 1404 is traditional, but these days I think we're using a little bigger motors than that. I don't actually know. 1507? That's an older motor. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is 3.5 inches to me is the sweet spot where you really haven't given up much in terms of, if anything, in terms of durability. You have as much power and performance as you want, and you're still under that 250 gram limit. 661 FPV says even a long-range 4-inch is going to be over 250 grams. I mean, it can be done. The Explorer LR can come in under 250 grams, not with the lithium-ion battery pack, with a little 850 milliamp hour 4S, okay? But it can get in under 250 grams. So, but I think you're giving up too much in terms of durability. Alrighty, that's how we do it, folks. We're going to take questions. We'll take questions from the regular chat for maybe 20 minutes or so. And then I'll see how many super chats are queued up, and we'll start doing super chats. Anan Omas wants to know, Any downsides to 900 megahertz Express LRS if Mobilite 6? Can it run it now and would be good with my other drones for penetration's sake? I have to say, I don't see why you'd put 900 megahertz on a Whoop if 2.4 gigahertz was available. When FreeSky was the 2.4 gigahertz option, people found ways to shoehorn a 900 megahertz antenna onto a tiny Whoop. And it was a hassle because those antennas are so big. You could go down to something like the Minimmortal T, which I think is an 1/8 wavelength, which is just awful. And the penetration was the range of penetration was no good. So we get something like 2.4 gigahertz with Immersion RC Ghost or Express LRS, where you still got all the range and penetration of a low-raw link, and the smaller antennas. To me, that seems like the obvious choice. The other thing is that how much video range are you going to get out of a video transmitter on a Mobilite 6? Not that much. So I feel like 2.4 gigahertz is the place to be. That's the downside, is the antenna is so large that it's kind of silly. But, you know, other than that, no. Let's see here. Steveatrix wants to know, can you look at these motors and let me know if they'd be okay on 4S? This has got to be a Discord question, I'm guessing. Otherwise, I don't see how Steve would have posted a... Where's this question? It's on Discord. Where's the picture, Blunty? Let's see.
You just got to keep scrolling up a little bit. 7:03 p.m.
7:03 p.m. Oh, way back. I see. 7:03 p.m. 2:48.
In the live stream chat channel.
That's where I am.
Okay.
8:01. 3 p.m. I don't see motors. What am I doing wrong, Blunty? 7:57. And then that's yesterday. Are you sure maybe it's in patron only chat? I don't know. Where are these motors?
Go to the bottom of live stream chat and then click my link.
Okay, great.
Or yep, you just repost.
Yeah, thank you. I actually have these motors. I have these motors on my Vanny Style 03 build. They're fine. In my opinion, they're a little bit much for 5-inch. They're a little bit much for 5-inch. Well, what size prop? I mean, they're intended for 5-inch props. I think that Chris Rosser's testing data has shown that there isn't much responsiveness advantage once you get to about 2207, 2208. 2505.5. What's the volume of that? So that's 2698. Let's compare that to 2207, just for comparison. $26.59. So it's very similar in volume to a 2207 or maybe a 2207.5, but it's going to be a wider, flatter motor. So in general, a way to think about motors is that the torque the motor generates is proportional to the volume. A motor that is taller and narrower is going to be more responsive, and a motor that is wider and flatter is going to have better cooling, because the wider, flatter motor, the mass is further from the axis of rotation, and so it's less responsive. It has a harder time accelerating, but it has a lot of surface area for air to go through it and get cooled. A motor that's narrower and taller is more responsive, but has a harder time with cooling. In this case, what we've got is a motor that is approximately, maybe a little bit larger than a 2207 in terms of its volume, but it's wider and flatter. But the question is, do 2207 motors need better cooling? And the answer is no. Generally, no. So I'm not sure I understand the design intent of this motor. My thinking, now obviously Farouk FPV, he's a great pilot and he flies them and likes how they fly. But my thinking about how like a Spang motor would work is that you're going to want a very responsive motor, because Spang requires a lot of sharp movements and very responsive props. So it's odd to me that you would go to a wider, flatter motor when you want more responsiveness. So that doesn't mean like that that's a question. It's not an answer, and it's not a statement. My answer about this motor is similar, to my answer about a lot of motors. It's a $28 motor. There are exceptional motors available in the $22-ish price point, 23. When you buy a motor like this and you're paying $28 for it, you have to really want that specific motor and something that it's bringing to the table. And I'm not sure what that is with this motor. Like, what's really unique about it? It looks like a fine motor. But what we've got here, I think, is a $23 or $24 motor with a premium put on it because it's got a pilot's name on it. And it's not, I'm not saying that as like, I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm just saying that's how motors often work. And you're paying a premium for the fact that it's got a pilot's name on it. It is an unusual size, but I don't actually think the unusual size is actually giving you better performance in a way that you would really need. So, any, Blunty, I don't see you having pinned any comments. I was hoping that maybe someone would be like, Bardwell doesn't know what he's talking about. The reason this motor is special is, No?
Not really. There's a couple of people that mentioned the FPV cycle 25mm motors are great, so these should be great too.
The FPV cycle 25mm motors are, what's their size? They're 25 by, I don't know if anyone, I think they're taller. Just visibly they look taller. I'm not, if you look at, like, I'm the kind of guy who if I fly a motor and I think I have an experience and then somebody shows me test stand data that contradicts my experience, I'm going to be really quick to go, I guess that was placebo. I am not sure. Because I know how, I've done A/B testing with motors, and I know how difficult it is to really notice the difference between subtle things. You fly the motors and you think you notice the difference. Unless you are a very exceptional pilot who can, like, if you're a racing pilot like Alex Vanover or any of those top racers who can put in laps with 1/10 of a second consistency, and you say you notice a difference in the motors, maybe I start to believe you. But for a typical guy like me, I flew those 25mm motors. I thought I noticed some things about them. Chris Rosser tested the motors, and some of the things that people said about them turned out not to be true, at least on the bench. And at that point, I'm quick to revise my opinion and maybe have second thoughts about expressing such a strong opinion in the future. If you like the 25mm FPV cycle motors, these seem like they're similar in that they're 25mm, but a little smaller in volume. But if you just look at bench testing, those larger motors don't really benefit in terms of responsiveness from their additional volume. It's essentially a 2207 to 2207.5-ish motor. Then that volume has enough torque to accelerate a prop, pretty much a 5-inch prop, pretty much as fast as it needs to accelerate, and bigger motors are kind of wasted. Obando says most YouTubers do not test a motor with more than 3 flights. Yeah. And I hesitate to name names or point fingers, but I think that there's a lot of people out there who are quote unquote reviewing motors, and all they do is they put the motors on a quad and they rip it and they go, yeah, I like it. And I think that if you look at the test data that Chris Rosser is putting out, where he shows the things he shows about the motors are true. You could make an argument, oh, the test stand isn't perfect to real life, and there's other things that his tests don't incorporate. And maybe that argument is true. But the things he says about the motors are true. So if he says a motor is more efficient, it's more efficient. If he says a motor is more responsive, it's more responsive. And a lot of times, I think the differences between the motors on the test stand are fairly subtle. Subtle enough that I'm skeptical. Like, has anyone ever reviewed Mr. Steele's The Ethics motors and said, these motors are underpowered? I don't know. Maybe they have. But lots of people review those motors and they go, oh, they're so smooth. They're blah, 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 blah. Well, you put Chris Rosser tests them and they are significantly underpowered compared to all the other motors he tests. Why did no one, okay, I shouldn't say no one because the chat's going to pop up somebody who said it. But you see what I'm getting at? If I ripped this motor and I detected what was up with it was accurate, then everybody who flew that motor would be like, oh, this motor's underpowered. Make your life easy. Just go with T motors. T motors are good motors. Very good motors. Pretty expensive. But solid motors. Like they arguably justify their price. Buy $8, $12 motors and rip it. That's the other way to go. Absolutely. One IFPV says, is Chris Rosser's testing peer reviewed? Are other people getting the same test results he gets? Or is no one else doing the testing? I don't know anyone else who is doing the testing Chris Rosser is doing. Well, one of the reasons for that is Chris has equipment that no one else has. So he tests his motors not just with a thrust stand, but also with a basically like a, what's the thing you put a dynamometer? Basically, it's like a, you know, when they test cars to see how much horsepower they've got. What's that thing called? I'm blanking. So he's got like a flywheel. He doesn't use a prop to test the motor responsiveness. He puts a big weight on it with a flywheel, and basically he's testing motors in ways that no one else does. The gold standard for testing would be that if I were to criticize Chris Rosser's testing, the number one criticism I would level at it is that he only tests one of each motor, as far as I know. And there's manufacturing variants, right? They're absolutely, like, I've taken 16 of a given motor and measured the kV of the motor using a multimeter to measure the voltage, and found as much as plus or minus 50 kV of difference between the motors. Would that make a difference in Chris Rosser's testing? 1,000%. It would. But he, as far as I know, gets a motor. He gets one of each motor and he tests them. Because I've never seen a test he did where he tested 30 of a single motor and looked at the variance. Well, a truly representative scientific test would test 20 or 30 of each motor, randomly sampled off the assembly line. No one's going to do that. No one's going to do that. That's just too much effort for the value of the results you get. So no one's peer reviewing Chris Rosser's testing, and it would be nice if they did, but we just don't have people who are doing that. And we don't, that's just where we're at. We just have to hope that he's doing it right and getting good results. To me, the 25 millimeter FPV cycles have very smooth low range. That's the kind of thing people say. I mean, if you like them, by all means, fly them. Anyway, License to Drive says, even just the difference in the motor's sound can influence you. Interesting you say that, License to Drive. There's a video I shot with Ciotti that I never released. I still have the footage, and maybe someday I'll put it out. I don't know. At this point, probably not. He and I tested 3 identical quads with 3 different motors on them. Significantly different motors. Like, one was like a 2506, one was like a 2207.5 or something. I don't know. 3 different motors. And one of the things we debated was whether we should be allowed to hear the motors. And we decided that if we wanted to truly do a test of how they fly and how they feel, we shouldn't hear the motors. So we actually put earplugs in and played music so we couldn't hear the motors. And we couldn't tell them apart reliably. Barely at all. We were just guessing. Was that the right thing to do? I don't know. How do you know what you want from a motor? Exactly. So anyway, we could rant about motor testing all night, but let's not. Thank you for the question, Steve Drix, and thank you for being a patron. Let's see here. Oh, there's the motor. You queued it, Blunty. I see it's there in the queue. Very nice. Riza Evil, sorry if I've said your name wrong, asks, I just got in from crashing my GetRC Cinelog 3.5 V1 HD and it's all kind of broken. Can I get parts for it? Cinelog, which one is it? The GetRC Cinelog 3.5. I mean, if we go... So obviously you're not going to buy a whole new bind and fly. That's silly. But I think GetRC should sell all the parts. Like if I search for Cinelog 3.5 frame, you can buy the frame separately. You can buy the flight controller separately. You can buy the motor separately. I think you need to go to getrc.com though. They're probably not like at your average retailer. Okay. We're almost a half hour into the stream and I haven't read but that one super chat. So let's take some time to take care of the people who paid to have me read their messages. The super chats. The way this usually works is I'm going to start reading super chats, and as long as new super chats are coming in, I'm going to keep reading them. If I run out of super chats, I'll go back to reading the regular chat. So if you're interested in having me pretty much guaranteed read your question pretty much in the next 5 minutes, now's the time to leave a super chat. And the first one comes from Quad City Bay Area. Thank you for a $5 super chat. Is there a reason Walksnail is not on par with O3? Is it hardware or engineers? That's hard to say. I'm not sure I understand the hardware they've got enough to really justify, to really answer that question. They both use H.265 encoding. So they're similar in that respect. Like the Vista can't do H.265. It doesn't have the processing power. So they're of at least a similar generation, perhaps, a way to put it, of hardware. I think it's the engineers. I think that DJ, and you know, I'll tell. There's a really funny story I like to tell. I was at FreeFly Systems, who makes the FreeFly Alta, and if you guys know Daniel Riley, RC Test Flight is his channel. He makes really, really cool RC content. He makes like a self-guided autonomous boat. He makes a laser that cuts the grass. He does all kinds of crazy projects. And he's a super cool guy to hang out with. It was a blast getting to hang with him. And one of the things we did while we were hanging with him is it's FreeFly Systems. They make Cinelifters. So he has like a Red Dragon. I don't remember which camera it was. It was one of the really expensive Red cameras. And we were like, let's shoot the intro to this video on the Red Dragon. Just because why not? We can. Oh, where's that? Is the intro to that, was that, this video?
It really means a lot to me. Haven't built this.
No. Oh, man. Was it the one take? No. Oh, man. Well, I'll never find that video. That's a shame. It was Paul Nurkala. I want to find it. It was so fun. Nope. All right, I give up. Is this it? That's a build video. That's from that same week. Oh, man. Oh, well. Never mind. Anyway, Drew was looking at the monitor from the Red camera, and he said, why does it look so good? And Daniel said, without missing a beat, the money. And he's kind of right? The money. Why is the O3 better than Walksnail? The money. DJI has so much money to hire engineers. And DJI has been doing it for years. O3 is, like, if you go all the way back to the very first light bridge, that's how long DJI has been working on this. So that's why I think Walk Snail is not as good. It's frankly, given the disparity, this is a real David and Goliath scenario here. I don't know how many employees Walk Snail has, and I don't know how much money they make, but I guarantee you it's a fraction, a tiny fraction of what DJI has to bear. And the fact that Walk Snail is as close to DJI at even competitive is amazing for what they have. Black Jungle, thank you for 5 Brazilian reais. A lithium ion pack, 4S2P. Is that too much for a 7-inch cruiser? Nah, no way. That's fine. iFlight makes a 6S2P for their 7-inch. So 4S2P is no problem. You're good to go. Quad City Bay Area, thank you for $2. TBS still alive. How can they come back? I think what you're asking is, are they even alive to come back? Well, Trappy says they are. So there you go. He would know. Jeremy Pierce Sania, thank you for a $2 super chat. How do I bind my O3 Air unit to my V2 goggles? Jeremy, you need to have the V2 goggles on the latest firmware, and you need to go into the settings. Is it settings about, Blunty? I can never remember.
I believe so. I'm not sure.
All right, neither of us is sure. I think it's settings about.
Go.
Yeah, you can change the goggle mode to O3 mode. That's probably why it won't bind. DJI Raw FPV. Thank you for a $5 super chat. DJI Raw. Is there... Dang it. Raw. Nope. Just a donation. Thank you for that. Hugh Bradburn. Thank you for a $2 super chat. We're not going to read this message, though, because we're not going to talk about that today. And we're going to try to stick to it. Although if there's a super chat, I'm obligated. Yes, I've heard about remote ID. That's all I'm saying about that. Joe Fotoleo, Artistic Aerials. Thank you for a $5 super chat. I fly DJI FPV and I'm getting a V3 Evoke DC with an O3 Air unit. Should I go with or without Crossfire built in, buying a bind and fly? I mean, the question is, what if you have the DJI FPV drone, then you have the gray controller, at which point I think there's a compelling argument you should just buy the Evoke and use your gray controller that you already own. I mean, there are some advantages to Crossfire, sure, but a lot of people who fly DJI are happy using that gray controller, and I think I don't think there's a you'd have to also buy another controller, and I think for a lot of people the right answer is just keep using that one and save yourself the trouble and the money. Jesse Fellers wants to know 4S or 6S. What do you prefer? Thank you for $2, Jesse. 6S. 6S has the most. The thing I notice most about 6S is less voltage sag at the end of the pack. Kevin Murray says, "What's a good lap timer or a method of timing laps by myself?" Thank you for a $5 super chat. Well, a good question. So, if you can find one of these, these are great. I have one. I got it a long time ago, and you basically can't find them. So you're going to have to build your own. No. Yeah, this is the one. The next thing to look at is rotor hazard. In my opinion, this is how am I going to put this? There are other lap timers that are good, but this seems to be the one that has the biggest following after like the Immersion RC Lap RF. Rotor hazard can be a big, complicated build. If you're building like a full 8-way timer, right? But you don't have to do that. Well, I'm trying to find the link. Somebody help me find the link to like the single node version of Lap RF or a rotor hazard. There we go. Single node. So this, if I was an individual person not running an event with like 8 different pilots, this is probably what I would do. And you can build this with a single RX5808 module and a single Arduino Nano and some wires. And I think some people say you should have some resistors on these wires, but this instructions doesn't say you have to do that. And basically, this is a one-way lap timer. Do you need a laptop? You need a laptop to run the rotor hazard server. That's a little annoying. It's just annoying because you'd need a laptop out at the field. Whereas if you have a Raspberry Pi, you can do it that way. I'm going to come back here to the chat now. Blunty, has there been any other suggestions? Like, chat, are there any good single node timers for individuals that are easier and more self-contained than the rotor hazard single node? Blunty, I'm going to throw that question out, and then I'm going to move on, and we'll come back to it if you notice anything, okay?
Okay.
There are goggle receivers. Like, the TBS Fusion, I think, has a built-in timer. I don't know how good it is. David Torres says, is it possible to get the Speedy BF7 stack to have self-leveling mode? Yes. Sure. That's just angle mode in the Betaflight modes tab. This is a case where I don't want to like act like you, I don't want to like react so strongly to your question that you think I'm like being disrespectful about it, because, you know, everybody, if you didn't know the answer, then it's not a dumb question. You deserve to have the question answered. But it's also kind of such a basic question that I can't help but wonder if I'm misunderstanding you. Like, we go to the modes tab. Oops, no, the modes tab. And we turn on angle mode. And then that's auto level. If that's what you're looking for, I hope that's the answer to your question. Robert Austin Masters wants to know, thank you for a $10 super chat. Continuing our rundown of the super chats, as long as you guys keep leaving super chats, I'll keep reading them. If you want to get your question answered promptly, this is the way to do it. What is the best minimum 4-inch freestyle quad with longer flight time, a radio controller, and analog protocol for sufficient and upgradable goggles if possible? So this is a case where I think you're sort of asking for the moon. Like, when I see you ask for a 4-inch freestyle quad with a long flight time, that's like saying you want a car that you can take to the drag strip, but that also has good mileage. Which is not to say that such a thing doesn't exist, but those design goals are a little bit contrary to each other. And it makes me wonder if you really understand what you want. Like, you want a freestyle quad, but you want it to have long flight time. Are you sure? I mean, could you just buy more batteries and swap the batteries? A good 4-inch freestyle quad. Most of the 4-inch quads that I can think of are designed for long range, not freestyle. So there's plenty of like 3.5-inch in the sub 250 range that are decent for freestyle. And then you're also asking for, are you asking for like an all-in-one kit? Like, you want a kit? Or do you want a separate controller and a separate goggles? I don't think you're going to find that in a kit. For the radio controller, here's what I'm going to suggest you do. Head on over to my website, fpvknowitall.com, fpvknowitall.com, and check out my ultimate FPV shopping list. So, like, if you're looking for analog goggles, we'll go to the Analog FPV Systems page. We'll go to Analog Goggles, and you can see some suggestions for analog goggles that you could buy today. And see if any of those, that looks like a mistake. Why is that like that? Every time I go to the website on a live stream, I find something. Every time. Oh, well, that's good. I should do it more often. No. I haven't used that forever. Okay, great. Well, that'll get taken care of. All right. And there's suggestions there for a radio controller as well. There's a page for controllers. It'll help you decide. I think the Boxer is a great choice. That's what I personally use. But as far as a 4-inch Freestyle Quad, that's a tougher one. If you want longer flight time, something like the Flywheel Explorer is good, but it's not great for freestyle. It's not designed for that. Going back to the question about the lap timer. This is one that was, thank you so much to One Eye FPV for this. FPV Sim Timer 2.0, a modern cross-platform lap timing and race coaching system. This is a single source. It's a single, basically, you just build this one thing and it works for you. ESP32. I have those. Wait a minute. Is that the same as the thing I bought for the spoofer? It is! Oh my god, I have another use for these ESP32 boards that I bought to make the remote ID spoofer. I'm totally going to make lap timers out of these. That's amazing. That's really cool. Look how easy this is. Oh, yeah. Oh, I got to buy some RX 5808 modules right now. I was like, okay, I bought these, but I'm not going to use a remote ID spoofer in the real world. I can't get myself in trouble like that. So then I was like, what am I going to do with these? I'm going to make lap timers out of them. That's amazing. And then I'm going to give them away. I don't know. Okay, that's what you should do. So I will say, again, that URL is fpvsim.com. fpvsim.com/timer. I will say the Rotor Hazard one, Rotor Hazard is an exceptional piece of software for event management. If you ever are going to manage a race with like multiple racers, 4 racers at a time, or maybe 20 racers in 5 heats of 4, Rotor Hazard is amazing. So if that's you, that you might steer towards Rotor Hazard and start familiarizing yourself with it, but it's a pretty big investment. You need something to run the software, whereas this looks like it's completely self-contained on the ESP board, which is pretty cool. It also, maybe it, oh no, it has a does it have a subscription? Is this paid? I'm annoyed if it's paid. I guess, God forbid people should make money. Can you at least just do it alone without paying? I'm not sure about that. Anyway, you have your choice. Nope, that's the wrong scene. I pressed the wrong button. Thank you, One Eye FPV, for that. Continuing the super chats. What's a good antenna upgrade for my Happy Model baseline? Well, what antenna does the baseline come with? A good antenna grade for the Happy Model baseline. I would caution you. These little dipole antennas do an okay job, and adding even like a gram of weight can compromise the performance at least a little bit. So there are people who would say, leave that antenna, it's perfectly good. But if you want to upgrade, then what let's do is let's go to fpvknowitall.com, go to the Ultimate FPV shopping list, and go to the Tiny Whoop page. And I want to look at what antennas Aaron Ciotti recommended for his Tiny Whoop builds. So you could go with the True RC Singularity, or there's one more on this page, which is the Tiny Whoop small antenna. The Tiny Whoop small antenna is really small and light, but not very durable. So really think hard about whether you want that one. The True C Singularity might be a good choice. The advantage of those antennas is going to be that they are circular polarized, and you'll have better results in environments with high multipath, which tiny whoops are often flown in those environments. DJI Raw FPV, thanks for a $2 super chat. I don't know the first thing about the DJI simulator, so I can't answer your question. Thank you for your super chat. I appreciate your generosity. I wish I could answer your question, but I can't. Quad City Bay Area, thanks for a $2 super chat. My question is, how can TBS come back on top? Well, okay, so first of all, let me say, the only person who can answer that question is Trappy. And I guarantee you that whatever I'm about to say right now, Trappy's answer is better. Because he actually, runs the company. If I knew how to make TBS come out on top, then I'd be doing his job and I wouldn't be doing my job. So I'm going to answer your question, but I want to acknowledge right off the bat that it's just kind of a made up bullshit shooting off my mouth answer that, reflects my opinions more than it reflects any reality about what TBS needs to do. In my opinion, the first thing TBS needs to do is get their shit back in production. And I say that because I've seen people turn away from TBS simply because it is so damn hard to find TBS products in stock. Having said that, the chat will now go find stores with TBS receivers in stock, 50 in stock. Yeah. I'm not saying that it's impossible to buy them, but I am saying that it has been very hard to buy them. And when you have when you have Express LRS being made by 12 different vendors, so it's never out of stock. Granted, some of those Express LRS receivers made by vendor X may be really bad quality and not worth buying, which is not a problem you have with Crossfire. With Crossfire, they're all the same quality, but sometimes you can't get them. But when people see that Crossfire is out of stock and Express LRS is able to be purchased, that steers them that direction, and I think they would need to ramp up production to better meet demand. The next thing I would say is that they need to update their technology to reflect what people today are looking for. Express LRS and Ghost have both addressed higher frame rates. Now, you could argue that a lot of the people who say that they care about high frame rates and low latency couldn't tell the difference in a blind test. That's probably true. But the saying, the customer is always right. What that means is not that the customer is literally always right. If the customer says the sun rises in the west and sets in the east, the customer is wrong about that. That's a factual statement. But the customer is right about where they spend their money. And if the customer says, I want a receiver that can do 1,000 hertz, you can't change their mind by arguing that they don't need it. They're going to tell you whether they give you their money or not. And so I think that it's been a long time since either Crossfire or Tracer has seen much of a sort of an upgrade to reflect the things that people are looking for. So I think those protocols need somewhat of a revamp to be able to compete better with protocols like Express LRS. And then the other thing, Madstech suggested that he'd love to see a Mambo with Crossfire built in, that he loves the Mambo as a radio, but he doesn't really think there's a lot, he doesn't like to use Tracer. That kind of thing would show that TBS is still out there and still alive and listening to their customers. Grim Ripper wants TBS to make Express LRS receivers. I mean, never say never, but that seems like a long shot. TBS could make the best Express LRS receivers. They could make good ones anyway. Xenon says, rest in peace, TBS. I don't think so. Good luck to Trappy. Yep, indeed. Trappy seemed interested in growing TBS in a non-quadcopter direction. I wonder what direction would that be? What about a Tango with Express LRS built in? Bitterroot says, I quit TBS because of availability. Yeah. TBS Express LRS diversity. TBS Express LRS Tracer. Yeah. So. Danzilla says the actual quote is, "The customer is always right in terms of style." I didn't actually know that, but yeah, that's correct. We're going to skip the list here. We've got a $50 super chat. Thank you so much for your generosity. Mufasa. Oh, like the Lion King. Mufasa. Mufasa, thank you for your generosity. $50. I'm new to FPV and recently got given a quad and Fat Shark Dom V2s by an older gentleman, but I can't update because the board's not in beta flight and I haven't had any luck on the forums. I don't know what radio I would need. Mufasa, you're going to need to email me about this because, like, for example, what quad was it? And what flight controller is in the quad? These are the questions that we need to answer. And those are the kind of questions that are better answered if we go back and forth. I'm going to invite you to email me, you and everybody else. And when you do, just don't be shy. Say, hey, it's Mufasa from the live stream. I left you a $50 super chat. And that'll just give me that extra little oomph to be sure. Like sometimes I get questions and I go, oh, I don't know. I think I'll answer that one in a little bit. But if you remind me that you sent me a $50 super chat, I'll feel guilty if I don't answer immediately. And you certainly deserve nothing less. Thank you for your donation. Fly Andy, thank you for a $2 super chat. Are you ready for the Grinderino? I am. Not only am I not ready for it, I don't even know what it is. Stevetrix, thank you for a $5 super chat. Have you thought of making a Bardwell in Espanol channel? Hire a Spanish voice actor to dub your most popular videos. It will monetize. I don't know about that, Stevetrix. I actually have had foreign language channels. The way that it happened is somebody reached out to me and said, hey, I speak this language. I'd like to translate and dub your videos. And I said, okay. I created the channel. I made them an admin of the channel, and they had full control of the channel. They could upload, answer comments, whatever. And it was Joshua Bardwell. There were two. One was a Russian translation, one was Chinese. And in both cases, before the channel got monetized, the person who was translating it burned out because translating and dubbing is a huge amount of work and stopped doing it. Which is fine. I mean, I'm not all about the money, and if somebody wants to do the work, that's fine. But I'm not convinced that Bardwell in Espanol, if I had to pay someone to dub the videos, I think you may be underestimating how expensive that would be. And in addition, it would need to be somebody who it would need to be translated by someone who knew FPV and knew how to translate the FPV terms and lingo without creating technical inaccuracies. And then it would have to be dubbed, and I think that would be more expensive than any monetization I would get out of it. Thank you, Philly Style FPV, for a $5 super chat. I posted a pic in Discord. Just wanted to share it with the community and also your thoughts. Is this it, Philly Style? Looks like a toothpick. Is that a 4-inch? That doesn't look like a 3-inch. What size props are those? Can I read the props? That doesn't look like a 3-inch toothpick. It looks like a 4-inch toothpick. Or maybe a 5-inch toothpick. What size is it? Let's see here. Oh, the Grinderino is Bach Grinder's new 3.5-inch. I did not know that. Actually, I did hear him talk about that. Is that a naked 03? Sheesh. That's insane. It's a 5-inch. Roborito says it's an ET5 and it's a 5-inch with a naked 03. That's badass. That is badass. What happened to this bird? Why is there a bird feather on this? Never mind. Don't answer. That's pretty badass, dude. Don Dupuy, thank you for a $10 super chat. Any new build videos planned for the future with a JB drone with a remote ID and GPS, maybe with an O3? Actually, Don, you are 100% right. In this very week, I will be recording a new beginner build series with the new updated QAVS. Hey, remember this? I'm just going to keep teasing it, and it's never going to come out. It's the infinite blue balls edging of the QAVS V2. I've got one and you don't, and you never will because they're never going to be in the store. No, I'm joking. They are on their way from the factory to Get FPV and should be for sale in the next 2 weeks. And I have to do a new beginner build series. So I have all the parts for it, and it's going to have the O3. It's going to have walk snail and analog, of course. And that will be coming out on the channel within the next month. Will it have remote ID? So it won't have remote ID today. What I'm going to do is around the time of the September 16th deadline, I'm going to do an update and add GPS and remote ID to it. Because I want to wait till the last minute to decide which remote ID module is the best one to put on. So. Thank you for the question, Don. In case you couldn't tell, I'm frustrated with the release schedule of my new frame. I say that, but also I'm not the one doing any of the actual work of making it and getting it into stores. So I assume, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't assume. What am I going to do? Shakes fist at cloud. Oh, Quad City Bay Area. Thanks for a $2 super chat. I heard 250 grams is next on the FAA list. Yeah. That's why, we're at risk, Blunty. We're at risk of talking about remote ID. We'll see if I can thread that needle. That's why I'm not people are like, well, I only fly sub 250 gram now. And I'm like, okay, great. But you assume that they're going to stop at 250 grams. I am not saying I espouse this attitude, but I will say that I understand how someone might have the attitude of you may as well just not comply now. Because, if you're okay, well, I'll fly with a remote ID module and I'll be sub 250 gram and then I'll be okay. Well, great. In a year, you won't be okay there either. So you're either going to quit the hobby or you're going to be a rule breaker eventually. So may as well just get onto it. Some people might say. Not me. I would never go on camera and encourage people to break rules because that would just be silly. If I thought that would make a difference, then I might do it. I don't want people to, I don't want you to get the idea that I'm a coward or that I'm just a sheep who follows the rules all the time. There are times when it's effective to say, I'm breaking the rules and everybody else needs to break the rules with me. Come on, guys, let's do this. And there are times when all that does is get everybody who poked their head up smashed and nothing changes, at which point you need to be more like the French Resistance and less like the Spartans in 300. I don't know. Anyway, there we go. That's it. See? Didn't really talk too much about it. DJI Raw FPV says, what's the best durable FPV drone? Ooh, that's a tough one. 5 inches are pretty durable, mostly. They can be pretty durable. I think that micros are lighter, but the motors tend to be the thing that breaks. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'm not sure I can pick just one. All right, we're going to take one more super chat, and that's going to be the last one, unless one more comes in. We've caught up. Hold on. What do you think about the V2 frame from SpeedyBee, the Master 5? Greetings. I don't know. What did they change? Is this the one I've already reviewed, or have they improved it? Blunty, do you know? I don't know why you would know.
I don't know.
It's got a protecting. It's got a little. What's changed? Does it just say what's changed? Support for the O3. I think these side plates are new. The O3 VTX is activated before the drone leaves the factory. That is a lie. In my opinion, please don't sue me for libel or slander, defamation. The reason that the O3 VTX is activated before the drone leaves the factory is that they are sold for China market and you don't have a warranty associated with them. That SpeedyBee has to handle all the warranty. They are not individually test flying every single one of these. Surely not. Maybe they power it up. Nothing that would require activation. I think they're coming from DJI, and the serial number is already flagged as this was sold to an OEM. We saw that happen with iFlight, and that's how we learned about that relationship. I don't know for sure that they're not activating them. My guess is that they're not activating them, that they're just saying that to cover the fact that they're sold for the Chinese market. Does this have the same problem that I complained about already? Where the nose sticks out too far? Yeah, it's the same. Has anything changed? I've got a rant on this on the Livestream Clips channel about the problem that I have with this frame. Wait. This is better. This comes down here. That's better, but is that the
Can we
HD?
see the screen? Is it intended?
Oh, I'm so sorry. You guys can't see a damn thing. Thank you, Plenty. How long has that been going on? Quite a while. What I was looking at is the problem that I complained about was that this one here stops up here and then there's no like brace or standoff, and it puts a lot of stress into the front end. It looks though like they have changed. Have they changed this? I think maybe they did. Maybe in response to my whining. And that would fix that problem. That would fix the problem of that's going to put all the stress down into this chunk of carbon, and that's good. The other thing is, do they have so I still don't like, are they still soft mounting? I still don't like this. This soft mounting is no good. That's no good. It isn't going to make problems every time, but it's going to make problems for some people and make their quad fly bad. I think they're being a little too clever, but I think they've revamped the front end, and that's good. Would you recommend the DJI Goggle 2 or Integra? I think for the majority of people, Integra is fine and it's cheaper. The Goggle 2, I like the thing I like most about the Goggle 2 is the built-in diopter focus adjustment as someone with a really bad glasses prescription. Black Jungle says, just to make you a liar and thank you for what you do. What did Black Jungle post, Blunty? I don't see what he posted. I'm making me a liar.
Yeah,
okay. Any thoughts on Armatan coming to the United States? We talked about that in the news. Thank you, Quad City Bay Area, for $2. We talked about that in the news. Sure, cool. It'll be nice to, as someone who lives in the U.S., it'll be nice that they're U.S. based to probably make it easier to get their stuff if they don't ship from Asia. As someone who lives in the rest of the world, F you, now you have to order from the United States. But it'll be interesting to see if their prices are able to stay the same. If they're surely they're not manufacturing in the U.S. was, I think, our take. So we'll have to just see how that goes. Matt Sanders, all things equal, which gives longer flight time, 4 or 6S? Why? I think I have to say 6S because you're going to have lower current and less heat loss, less energy loss to heat. And that is going to bring us to the end of the Super Chats for now. We will do Super Chats again before the end of the stream, so if you want to make sure that you get in, go ahead and start stacking them up, and I will keep an eye on them. And when they stack up, we'll take some more. But for now, let's take some questions from the regular chat and the Discord. Black Jungle wants to know, how much would you roast me for arranging my antennas like this? All right, I got to stop taking questions from Black Jungle. Granted, a lot of them were Super Chats, so I had to. I wouldn't want this to turn into the Black Jungle stream, though, but let's look. It's way back. I do like roasting Black Jungle's builds. That's not the dumbest thing I ever seen. Nah, that looks pretty durable. That's not the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I wouldn't roast you too much for that. Oh, there's a bug in here. It's trying to get me. Did I ever finish Elden Ring? Asks Welsh FPV. No, I didn't. I actually stopped playing Elden Ring and started playing Metal Gear Solid 5. Here's what happened with Elden Ring. I don't remember the exact combo I got, but I got this this double katana combo. I forget the name of the blades, and it basically took all the fun out of the game for me, because attacking just became this game of stand near monster and mash buttons, and it's dumb because, okay, so just don't play that combo. Just get a different weapon and force yourself to play differently. But that's not fun, because I know I could be doing way more damage by just button mashing with these two katanas. And so I want to play in like an optimal way, but now that but it's so sort of imbalanced that it's not fun anymore. So that was kind of why it wore off for me.
That works until the end of the game, and then there's a bunch of optional bosses you can't do that to, especially like Melania.
Right. How many times did you finish?
4, and then 2 more characters, so 6, I think. I got all the achievements, so I wanted to get all the endings.
You played the shit out of that game. And sure, but what that's going to mean is that I'm going to get to the end of the game having not actually learned how to play my character optimally. And then I'm just going to get my... That? Well, I know. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying right now, the thing that works the best is to button mash, which isn't fun. And I don't know like what the next thing is going to be.
So let me suggest. So are you suggesting they should put a really hard boss early to convince you to not do what you're doing? Like, what's the game design solution for this?
The game design solution is to nerf that build. I mean, like, to be fair, I'm not an expert on Elden Ring builds, but...
Isn't there always going to be a build like that, though? I mean, I get what you're saying, but then are we just going to, like, handpick nerf every single build until none of them are powerful enough to, like, wipe through the bosses, and let's nerf Mimic Tier so we can't do Mimic Tier, and, like, I don't know. I think that's part of the fun of Elden Ring. Like, I did, like, 4 different builds over the course of six times I beat it. And, like, you get the ability to try all those things and work through all this. Like, Mimic Tier is just, like, it trivializes the game.
Right.
But I just stopped using Mimic Tier at some point.
Let's talk about Metal Gear Solid 5, because I'm not changing the subject, though, trust me. There's a thing that happens to me where when a game becomes too easy, I just don't want to play it anymore. I'm like, okay, I beat that game. Even if I didn't beat the game. Like, in Metal Gear Solid 5, if you use Quiet as your companion, if you level her up just a little bit, you can just hide in cover while she snipes every enemy on the map without them ever seeing you. And it's like I think of it as I don't want to play the game anymore level. And so I was just like, okay, I'm just not going to use Quiet. And like I'm not going to use her as a companion. But then I'm missing out on story content because her sort of relationship with Snake is not Snake. Who's the fucking protagonist of Metal Gear Solid 5? Anyway, it's like you're missing out on stuff if you do that. But I was just like, okay, I'll play the game, but I just won't use her for the story missions unless I have to. But it just didn't feel that way with Elden Ring. Like, I wanted to play that combo, but I wanted it to be more challenging and to be more tactical than just like slashing. And I just, some level, I was just like, I know I could just get a different weapon and play a different build. Yeah, but I didn't want to. No, it's a me thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I think Elden Ring for me was a very good tool to like limit myself inside of the system to have fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because like it's similar to what you're talking about, I guess, with maybe like Diablo 2. Like, why is Diablo 2 fun if I can just destroy everything? Right? Because there's still stuff to do. So like that's sort of where I ended up with, except I was like, well, why don't I just use worst gear and then it's actually a challenge to beat. Like when I run into a situation like the quiet thing, I literally just mark off in my head like, okay, this game is beat, so now I'm never using quiet again, and now I'm going to continue the game as though I don't have it. And I just do that with everything like that. Like Hoarfrost Stomp, there is a thing you could get in Elden Ring early, and I played with Hoarfrost Stomp for a minute, and then I was like, yep, this isn't fun, so now we're going to not use Hoarfrost Stomp anymore.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe I just need to put one of those katanas down.
And somebody else in chat mentioned the game's not multiplayer. Why do you feel the need to min-max on a non-multiplayer game? And I think that's just personality and gaming, right? Like because I understand why somebody would want to always do the best build in multiplayer because they're competing, right?
Here's where I fucked up though, because part of the fun of the game to me, it's not necessarily that I'm beating the bosses. The fun of the game is in figuring out the build, right? And figuring out the meta. And the place where I really fucked up was that I read in a strategy guide. So I had this one katana. I don't remember which one it was. And I read in a strategy guide that if you two-handed with this other katana, it was super OP. And I rushed. I looked up where the other one was and I rushed it. I went and got it. And it's probably in part because I didn't really earn that accomplishment. Like if I had found that katana and then felt like I earned the damage I was dealing, maybe I would be like, yeah, fuck these bosses. I'm tearing them up. But part of it, I think, is that I just rushed it, didn't find it organically, and maybe on some level I don't feel like I deserve it. But I can't undo that decision. I can't put it back in the crypt and forget where it was. Now I know. So maybe I spoiled the game for myself.
Yeah, I have a thing where I don't look up anything. When I was playing Elden Ring, I didn't look up anything.
Yeah. Because
I was so afraid for basically those reasons. I mean, I also didn't want to pull out the story and the things you could find and stuff. But also, that min-maxing, like I've been trying to push that away for the last 10 years of my life. Because I used to be hardcore min-max everything and just ruin every game.
Yeah.
But at some point, you're like, I actually want to play these games.
Right.
So then I like develop this mechanism where I can kind of control myself. Like I played an archer only character in Elden Ring.
You'll see people doing no armor. Yeah. If it's too hard, I should just play no armor. So like one hit kill. Be like, okay.
But I would also
now you're a glass cannon.
I understand you're not learning these skills, but there's plenty of opportunity to when you hit those wall bosses, and there's plenty of wall bosses in Elden Ring.
Good meme, Black Jungle. You're 100% right. Frankly, part of it might just be that I got tired of playing it and I wanted to play something else. And now we're just sort of,
Also fair.
Always happy to talk video games with you, Blunty. It's always an exciting and interesting conversation. You got a great perspective on it. Blunty and I have sort of bantered about making like a video game blog or vlog or podcast. The only problem being that I play like 3 video games a year and you play more than that. So I'm not sure how much I would have to offer.
I was actually going to talk to you about that. I think that like if we didn't do the podcast and instead we played games, like I think that would be the solution to that, because you don't play enough games. But if we played games and then talked and posited about the games, like if anybody in chat has played Return of the Obra Dinn, like I think that would be an excellent game for us to play.
Multiplayer games, you mean?
No, Return to the Obra Dinn is single player, but basically we'd be working out a puzzle together. That'd be the idea.
I'm down.
Like the whole game is like a puzzle and you're trying to figure out what's going on the ship and all those kind of things. But anyway, it also gives a chance for us to talk about game mechanics and understanding and all that kind of stuff too. So
yeah.
Maybe.
Neat.
Just a thought.
Neat. You never know.
And that's one of the only games like that I haven't played to death. Like I've only played it a little bit and realized like I want to wait until I play it.
I should play a game. What if it was that I play a game that you've played to death and we talk about it?
Oh man, okay, Outer Wilds.
Right?
Already have an answer. Outer Wilds.
I'm the guy who doesn't play enough games, and you play all the games. But we both have kind of like deep thoughts about games. I don't know. We'll think about it.
Yes.
We'll think about it.
All right.
I can't do anything unless I have the excuse that it's making it's.
Well, that's
work,
it's not like
right?
we could just play without making content.
Oh
right?
no, we'd have to make content. I can't just take the afternoon off and play video games with my friend. You know, the closest I get to that, and I'm joking, but it's actually really painfully close to the truth. The closest I get to that is playing video games with my kids, because then like it's not for me. It's like because I'm, bonding with my kids. That's like the very seldom just sit down and play a game. That's just how I am. Anyway, continuing with the questions. Thank you for that. A little excuse to talk about video games. Welsh FPV. Nick FPV wants to know: do you know if the master multiplier has been changed from 4.3 to 4.4? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that the sort of basic PID math hasn't been changed. There have been some other things that changed between 4.3 and 4.4, but no, I don't think the master multiplier has been changed. If you really want to know for sure, ask on the Betaflight Discord. There are devs there who will know for sure. Let's see here. Joseph S. wants to know, as far as 3.5-inch quads, what do you recommend for pre-builds? Well, thank you, Joseph, for the opportunity once again to plug my website. If we go to fpvknowitall.com and go to the Ultimate FPV shopping list, the sub 250 gram page has the 3.5-inch bind and flies that I recommend. My personal favorite is the GepRC Smart 3.5. It's a little bit dated, but still pretty good. And let's see if it's actually in stock anywhere in the world. 1 second, page loading. Get FPV, page is loading super slow, as always. In stock at Newbie Drone. Wow, that's great. Not in stock at Get FPV. I don't think it's in stock. Back ordered. Not in stock at Get FPV, but in stock at Newbie Drone. That's exciting. Is it literally in stock? That's amazing. Not on Banggood. And what about GepRC? Why is there not a... God dang it. This live stream is just Joshua bitches about his website. I am 1000% sure I said add GepRC. No. And any GepRC products on site. Please add GepRC AF-Link to GepRC Smart 3.5 on Cinewap page. Marked as done. It's not done. I don't understand. Is it a caching problem? Should I shift F5 and then it's going to be there? Control F5? How do you do it? Anyway. It's the Smart 3.5. Or any of the others on that page. Mason Nordman wants to know, any durable 65mm whoop frames you recommend? I keep breaking my Meteor 65. Yeah. Ciati, you there? It is the... Boom. I'm just picking questions that give me an excuse to show my website off. If we go to the Tiny Whoop page, and let's just look at the 65mm build. Ciati recommends the Beta FPV Meteor 65 frame. There seems to be a consensus among Tiny Whoop pilots, as much as I can tell, that the Meteor 65 is actually a really, really durable frame. And a lot of people prefer it over the Happy model or the Newbie Drone frames. The newbie drone frames come with a lifetime warranty, but break. The beta FPV frame, according to people who fly a lot of tiny whoops, mostly doesn't break. So that's the one to get. 661 FPV says if you're breaking Meteor 65 frames, the whoop is too heavy. Black Jungle, it's in the Trello. It is in the Trello. It is not only in the Trello, but it is marked as done. Which makes me think that it's a caching problem, and that's why I can't see it. Ooh, Jeff Classics wants to know how to remove an M2 screw that's bound to the standoff. The top plate is sandwiched. Can you get a hold of the screw with a pliers? And a hold of the standoff with the pliers and try and, like, break it off? Or twist it out? Sounds obvious, but that's what I would do. Electric Space Beaver says, what reason would there be for amp draw to suddenly read abnormally low? My Mob 7 had a minor crash in small grass and now underreads amp significantly. I mean, it crashed and something broke. I'm not sure that it's possible to be more specific than that. Let's see here. Giyats Hisham Sadida asks, I have a question about soldering the Caddx Vista to analog flight controller. There's only HV 5 volt. Is it good if I solder it to the XT60 pad using the Beck output 5 volt, 9 volt? Yes. You can solder it straight to the XT60. Assuming you're between 2S and 6S, which you probably are, just solder it straight to the XT60. Don't use a Beck. You can't use a 5 volt Beck. It needs a minimum 7 volts. But assuming that you're between 2S and 6S, just run it straight off of VBAT. You'll be fine. If you're not comfortable running it off of VBAT, run it off a 9 volt regulator. Let's see here. We got a question here from MMC FPV. Saying basically my GPS won't talk to my flight controller. When I plug the GPS into another one of my drones, it works. What could be causing the issue? Try changing the flight controller configuration from U-blocks to NMEA. I hate it when people do this, when they just like guess at an answer. And I'm like, I think to myself, don't guess at the answer. Just know the correct answer. And oftentimes I do. I don't know the correct answer this time. But I will say, a lot of times when I've had a GPS that won't work on U-blocks, if I change it to NMEA, it suddenly starts working. And since this GPS works on a different flight controller that is presumably set to U-blocks, then I would think it would work on the other one. But like, just try it. Just try it. Just try it. I don't have a better answer than that. John wants to know, is there a good microphone to mount onto a drone for sound? Yes, there is only one that I think is worth considering. Literally one. And that is the Rush AGC mic module board. The Rush AGC. AGC stands for automatic gain control, which means that when the wind starts going really loud, it cuts the gain and turns down the volume. In my opinion, this is the one to get, and I don't know of another one that's better. Rush AGC. DZ FPV says, I wish you would put out some remote ID module reviews sooner rather than later. For those who will comply with remote ID, it'd be nice to know what modules are good and which are garbage. I just don't want to rush because things are in flux and will change. Like, I would guess that the August, September, wow, it's actually closer than I thought. I was just doing the math. July, August, September. Holy shit. You know, you're right. We're coming up on the time. September 16th, we're currently just coming up on 2 months out. It's starting to get to be the time where I should figure out what's available and then start buying them and looking at them and seeing if we can review them. So yeah, that's coming. I don't know if sooner is the right word for it, but it is coming. Let's see. Wyatt Denbo. Oh, I guess this is a super chat. Okay, we're doing more super chats. All right, guys, we're back to super chats. Wyatt Denbo asks, do you get more range with the O3 and the goggles 2 over the Vista and the V2 goggles? Thank you for $5, Wyatt Denbo. I do think the O3 gives more range than the Vista. Yes. Yep. And my guess as to the reason why is because it's using H.265 encoding instead of H.264, which is more able to do more with the bit rate, but I don't know for sure. Quad City Bay Area says, I saw a Rotor Riot vid with 1S versus 2S. So confused. What's better? Thank you for a $2 super chat. They were specifically using the Vision 40 quad. I think this is a case where better is subjective. They're going to be different. There's definitely people who prefer the lighter weight of a 1S. There's people who prefer the more power of a 2S. I like the simplicity of a 1S build. I like that you can easily charge 1S batteries. When I'm out flying tiny whoops with 1S batteries, I love not having to think too much about lipo charging. I just plug the battery in and away we go. I think that the 1S has that going for it. No dealing with balance connectors or any of that nonsense. Ike Queen, thank you for a $5 super chat. My Walksnail VTX shows 10.4 volts supply warning in red. I have 5 T-motor stacks and they all output 10.4 volts. Should I be worried? No. No. There's no need to be worried. It's just, you can just turn that warning off. You're running off a regulator. You don't need a voltage warning when you're running off a regulator. Okay? Just go into the menu and turn that warning off. Easy peasy. Yeah. Can't Walksnail, can it be configured to show either the quad's voltage from the flight controller or the VTX supply voltage? It's been forever since I changed that option, so I'm not even sure. People who fly Walksnail, remind me. At the very least, you should turn that warning off. It doesn't matter. You're running off a regulator. That doesn't mean anything. The warning is because it thinks you've got a 3S battery, and if a 3S battery was at 10.4 volts, then you'd be in danger. Thank you, Black Jungle, for 10 reais. Legit suggestion, you and Blunty playing We Were Here. Go in 100% blind. Blunty, do you know that game?
Yeah, they're like co-op puzzle games where we see different things and have to explain to each other what's happening. But I've never played it. I just know about it.
That's interesting. I'd give it a go. We should play Bomb Disposal Squad, Blunty.
I'd be down for that.
That seems like the kind of game that ruins friendships. Right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think we do really well.
I've seen people play that game and do really well. Like, if you actually know the puzzles, both of you, you can just really quickly rattle them off. If you've never played it and you don't know, which puzzle it is, it can be really...
I saw one where they had a bomb squad, like a real-life bomb squad doing it.
I saw that exact video.
Yeah.
I think those guys had played the game before, though, if my memory's correct. Thank you, Wyatt Denbo, for a $5 super chat. If I have a Radio Master controller with an internal module, but I want to use an external, do I have to flash them both? Why would you have to flash anything? You don't, you can flash one at a time. Skesix, thank you for a $5 super chat. My 2-inch oscillates on mid to high throttle. What should I adjust to diagnose? Skesix, I would reduce the master multiplier and lower all the PIDs and see if that fixes. I mean, that probably will fix it. It's the P term that's specifically doing that, but my guess is that you actually just need to reduce the master multiplier. I'm going to call an audible. Blunty didn't, I don't think he queued this. I can't tell if he queued this question because it's not a super chat. Maybe he queued it. Draco wants to know, will the Rotor Riot backpack be available in Germany in the near future without paying 80 euros for shipping and customs? Draco, I don't know the answer to that, but that's a Rotor Riot question, not a JB question. I am a Rotor Riot cast member and am friends with Rotor Riot pilots, but am often not really directly involved with the actual running of the business. However, I will say the way that it works is they're manufactured in China, they're shipped to the United States, and then they're shipped from the United States to wherever. And the shipping, like, no one's ripping you off on the shipping. I don't know. You didn't accuse, but sometimes people do. Sometimes people think they're like, oh, 80 euros in shipping. Like, it's a gigantic box, all things considered. The volume of the box means that the shipping cost is substantial, and shipping into the United States is cheap as shit because I've heard, I don't know the exact details, but like shipping into the United States is subsidized in some way because the United States knows that American consumers like to buy shit, and shipping out of the United States is not subsidized and is expensive. And then Europe, of course, is going to ding you for customs because you guys are all socialists, and just that means the government takes all your money, right? That's my understanding as an American of how European government works. I don't know. I assume that I'm right and will not investigate further. So there just isn't a lot that Rotor Riot can do about that other than if there's some way, well, manufacture them in Germany. Haha, that won't save money, trust me. There may be a way that they can get through customs, like, but the thing is that, like, there certainly is a way to save on shipping. If they shipped a giant batch of them to Germany instead of going to America first, then you would save on shipping because shipping a bunch of them is cheaper than shipping one of them a bunch of times. But the customs thing, I mean, they're going to get their customs one way or the other. Like, you're going to pay that. So I don't think that's likely because I'm not sure that the number of people buying it in Germany would justify, like, they would need to have some kind of a warehouse in Germany where they, like, landed them. There would need to, the way to do that. Here's the way to do that. A German, now I'm legitimately trying to be helpful right now. A German retailer would need to reach out to Rotor Riot and say, I want to buy 30 backpacks. I don't know. There's a number. There's a number where if a German retailer said to Rotor Riot, I want to buy these many backpacks from you, can you give me dealer pricing? Maybe Rotor Riot would go, okay. I don't know if they are even open to that, but perhaps they would. At that point, the backpacks could go straight from China to Germany, and that would save money. But you'd have to convince a German retailer to pony up the money for a significant number of backpacks to make that worthwhile. And since no one's willing to do that, that's why they're so expensive. Have a friend in the US visit you in Germany and bring the backpack as your carry-on bag. Yeah. I wish that there was a better answer. Because, like, I'm sure the guys at Rotor Riot would like you to get a backpack. And it's not like they're just malicious or incompetent. That's just how expensive shipping is for something like this. Continuing our super chats. Lufu, thank you for $5. I just got a DJI FPV combo, so I have the goggles, V2, and the RC2. Any recommendations on sub 250s with O3 that will work for learning? Pavo, Beta FPV Pavo Pico. It's not super durable, is it? That's not a great learner. It's a sub 250 with an 03 though, so that's something. Philly Style. I said that's the Pavo Pico, Pico, by Beta FPV. That's something to think about anyway. Philly Style says, can I use folded cell BT 2.0 1S batteries on a 2S drone by building a custom power lead with 2 connectors spliced in a Y? Why does no one do this? People do that, Philly Style. I remember, was it a Happy Model 2S that came with a serial connector? One of the reasons why people don't like to do this is that the loss in the connector can make a difference. But it's totally doable, and you can totally do it.
Yeah, I believe my Mobula 7 came with a double.
Yeah. Garter rotor, going back to the question about the AOS, that's a much better suggestion, Garter rotor. The iFlight AOS 3 bind and fly. For Lufu, going back to Lufu's super chat, that's a much better suggestion, thank you, than the Pavo Pico. This is the one to get. It's a bind and fly with the 03, much better durability than the Pavo Pico. 03 on board. Is it sub 250 though? He said sub 250. Garter rotor, is it sub 250? It says sub 250. Okay, good enough for me. Blue Man Bass, thank you for 5,000, I think, Chilean pesos. How do I test GPS rescue without crashing? What you got to do is take off, fly at least 100 meters away. You have to be at least 100 meters away in beta flight for it to work. So fly 150 meters away. Lower your throttle and set down on the ground, but don't disarm. Just touch down on the ground, or maybe be like an inch away from the ground over some soft grass. Then activate GPS rescue. Don't do it 30 meters in the air. That's what I would say. Alrighty, continuing. That's all the super chats for now. We'll catch any remaining super chats before the end of the stream. Let's see what we got. Toroyoi Andrew asks, what are some substitutes if I wanted a TBS Tango 2, but it's out of stock? I mean, Radiomaster Zorro is kind of a similar form factor. Jumper T Pro, kind of similar form factor. That's the closest I can think. Arguy762 wants to know, is there an equation for KV versus torque to figure out how much torque is made at high RPM versus low? No, I don't think so. The torque curve for a motor does follow a certain pattern, but the exact values, I don't think you can calculate them. You need to put it on a test stand. There's too many variables. You got to put it on a test stand and test the torque that the motor creates. So the motor's going to make more torque at high RPM and less at low RPM, but that's about all you can say. Teroy Andrew also asks, how do you optimize the range on the Fat Shark Walksnail Avatar system? The single best thing you can do is put great antennas on the VTX and the goggles. TrueRC X-Air is a very popular choice for the goggles, and on the video transmitter, there's various choices. TrueRC Matchstick is a good one. TrueRC ORT is a good one. Luminaire Axie is a good one. You're going to spend a little bit of money on the antennas, but it will significantly improve the range of the system. Ooh, Axie, great question. I love this question. Does connecting the Walksnail Avatar VRX to HD0 have equivalent penetration or distance to the Walksnail Avatar goggles? So the display device that the VRX is hooked up to doesn't affect the range of penetration at all. It's a digital HDMI link between the VRX and the goggles. That image is not degraded in any way. However, the VRX has built-in patch antennas, and the goggles have 4 individual antennas. So if you were to use high-gain antennas on the goggles, you could theoretically get more range than the built-in patch antennas on the VRX. That's a little bit of a cop-out answer because you can easily open the VRX, disconnect the built-in antennas, and connect some external antennas. So, like, you could totally do that. But if you're using the stock antennas, then, well, hang on. If you're using the stock antennas, the goggles come with omnis. So if you're using stock antennas, the VRX might get a little better range because it has patches. If you're using patch antennas on both, then I think you'd probably get pretty similar range. Because you're going to have 2 patches and 2 omnis is the way most people are going to do it. I think the range is going to be pretty comparable. Tyler Harris says, when I go above about 45% throttle, my quad falls out of the air. The motors keep spinning slowly and there is no FC restart. Tyler, I'd love to see video of this. Do you have video with audio? You would need to share it in the Discord, though, because the YouTube chat won't let you share URLs. This is a tough one. The motors keep spinning slowly could just be the motors freewheeling. So the first question I'd have would be, is it disarming? It's obviously not losing power because you still have video. Is it actually disarmed? Or are the motors idling, or are they just freewheeling in the wind? I've seen situations before where someone set their controller up so that at a certain stick deflection, they disarmed. By accident, they set their controller up this way. I would want to check to see if the quad is actually staying armed. And that would be my first thought. AXM, that's a great question. Do O3 units for home builds have remote ID? No. The O3 does not have remote ID built in. Oh no, we talked about remote ID. Oh well. Jake wants to know, do you store your goggles with the antennas on or off? So I store my goggles when I'm at home. I store my goggles with the antennas on. They just go in the drawer with the antennas on, and that makes them easier to use. When they go in a backpack, I will often pull the antennas off. It depends on the goggle. If they're low-profile antennas like the DJI FPV goggles, then I'll leave them on. But analog goggles, HD0 goggles with an analog module, any of that stuff, they will go antennas off because I don't want to break them. Okay, I was just showing off my... Yeah. Oh, yeah. Organization. Organization, baby. Controller. Oh, props. Props. Wow. I'm going to use those props in a year. Oh. What more props? Lots of props. So that's how I store them. If they, a lot of goggles, they wouldn't go into a backpack easily with antennas on, and I'd be worried that they'd get broken. Wheelchair Viking, thank you for a $20 super chat. Thank you so much for your generosity. I built my first 5-inch quad a year ago. I can't get it flashed and bound. Shit, I thought you were about to have a success story. I was so excited going into your message, thinking it was going to be a success story, and I completely ran off the rail. How much will it cost to help me activate my first FPV? Please help! I have no drone friends. Wheelchair Viking, I'm going to advise you to reach out to itsblunty.com. That is It's Blunty's website. If you're on Discord, you can hit him up on Discord. That's actually how he prefers to be contacted because he's a weirdo. But you can also just go to itsblunty.com, click on the troubleshooting, and book a session. Contact, is that it? Blunty, you just have that? You don't have the Google form anymore?
That's correct.
They have to go on Discord and contact you. Okay. His rate is $50 an hour, and he will get you going. I also have an hourly rate. It's more than $50 an hour, and I am not actually that much smarter than Blunty, if at all. So I always just steer people to him because he's just as good and cheaper. Occasionally, someone is like, no, I really want you. And then I tell them what my hourly rate is. Why don't you have a roller mat for your chair on the carpet? Asks Meme FPV. Because I just don't care. This rug is my roller mat. This rug is my roller mat. Yeah. Because my chair rolls, I roll it over there. I guess, I can do any of that nonsense. When the work wears out, you know what? I got another one. I got another identical rug in the other room right now. The only reason I haven't put it down, because this rug's getting pretty worn out, the only reason I haven't put it down is that I haven't figured out how to make my desk levitate so I can move the rug underneath it without having to take all my shit apart. I'm going to figure it out eventually. Steve-O wants to know, when using the digidapter on the V2, do you need to have the antennas on the V2 goggles? Will it damage the V2s? No. All the DJI goggles and video transmitters are protected from that kind of damage. They will not be damaged at all if you leave the antennas off. You'll get bad range, but they won't be damaged. You'll be fine. RT McKinney says use floor jacks. That is 1,000% what I'm thinking, RT McKinney. I just have to figure out how to maneuver the floor jacks to be able to get the carpet up under the legs of the desk while still having the jack not be in the way. But yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do, is use a floor jack. That's 100% what I'm going to do. I could jack the desk up and then put some 2x4s across where the carpet is with jack stands outside where the carpet will be, and then slide the carpet in. I don't know. Hooks from the ceiling and ratchet straps. Now we're talking. Once upon a time. Oh my God. Do I still have a picture of this? Wow. Hooks from the ceiling brings back memories. Not the kind of memories you're thinking of. Not that kind of memories. Hang on. I'm going to show you guys something. I have to find it first, though. Photos, no. Pictures. Fuck you, private. No. Is it in old photos? My house? Yes! Okay. I found it. That didn't take very long. This is the first it's a townhome that I owned. The very first place I owned when I moved, but I lived in an apartment for a long time. And this is the living room of my townhome. I was very proud of it. I cleaned it up super nice, dressed it up super nice, and I made this picture. But what I want to show you guys, I had a real problem, which was I didn't have any way to hang the center speaker above my TV. Because if you look at the layout of the room, like, where's the TV going to go? Right? It can't go here because the fireplace is here. It can't go on this wall on the left because you can't see it, but the stairs coming into the floor are right behind you here. And I didn't want to come up the stairs and be looking at the back of the TV. Also, there's a walkway to the deck here, and the TV can't go here. This right here is an open dining room. So the only place to put the TV was right here in front of this window. But there was nowhere to put that center speaker. And by God, I'm not giving up my center speaker. So I hung it from hooks on the ceiling with clear picture hanging wire. And I very carefully looped those hooks with wire to get it to hang exactly straight and exactly centered. And I was so freaking proud of myself. Ratchet straps from the ceiling. Here is, hang on. Here is my DVD collection, including all the DVDs that I burned after I rented them from Netflix. Here is my Gen 1 Xbox with the wireless controller adapters for the controllers. And my PlayStation Mini with the memory cards. And I had a Media Center PC. Long before that was a thing, I had a Media Center PC with an HDMI output. Here's all the blank. These are all blank DVD read writes. I would burn the Netflix discs to these. Yep. Yeah. How about that? All right. A little trip down memory lane. There's TV stands that would hold that speaker. Yeah, but I didn't have a TV stand. I didn't want to do that. Too much stuff in that room. I disagree, Ian. It was cozy. It was cozy. That photo of Jack and Coke. That's my art photography. That was my art photography. Yeah. I don't know if the Jack and Coke photo is in here. Let's see. I don't think the Jack and Coke photo is in here. I did photography for a while. Oh, that's a little racy. Most of it was abstract. Let's see. Oh, some of these are gigantic. That's why they're taking forever to load. Yeah. Ooh, Kearney, Nebraska. That's where that is. I don't know why I have 700 versions of that one picture. I don't think the Jack and Coke is here. That's Hawaii. That is Spokane, Washington Airport. Kearney, Nebraska again. Oh, that's my wife. Oh, that's the house where the Jack and Coke picture was taken. That's Nelson, British Columbia. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Ha ha! There's that exact photo. I did find it. Oh, I know. It says I wouldn't carelessly scroll through pics on my computer. No. This is the folder of pics that I actually put up for sale. So I know there's nothing too racy in there. Nothing really NSFW. I would not, it wouldn't be in the for sale folder if it was definitely unsafe. That's why I felt okay to scroll through it. But there's that little attempt at, I don't know what, some kind of a, abstract still life of Jack and Coke. Why would you assume that was mine? Glad you guys like the photos. Let's see here. Oh, I'm just reading the compliments for my photos. Thank you. Now just to take a second and enjoy that. We got a question here from Philly Style FPV. Thanks for a $5 super chat. If you were a normal FPV pilot with average income, hypothesize how many drones you would have and what system they would be, what drones they would be. Do you mean average income for a normal person or average income for an FPV pilot? Because I have a theory that FPV pilots as a whole have higher income than average. So if I were a normal American with an average income, I would definitely fly analog because I couldn't afford to pay 160 stinking bucks for a video transmitter and a camera. I don't know how some people manage to stay in the hobby, given how much money it takes to stay in the hobby. I honestly am confused as to how people who work a normal sort of hourly job with a typical whatever, $13, $12, $8, $15 an hour, whatever it is. If you're not making six figures, I don't know how you're in FPV. I'm being a little sarcastic, but a little bit not. So I would say analog. I know a lot of pilots who fly DJI, and they don't seem like super wealthy people. So I think there's a way to make it work, but a normal person with an average income for an average American, it's gonna be analog for sure. Matt Sanders says my RC processor is overheating. What's this mean? It's red in a red box in the goggles Integra. Matt, that means your flight controller is getting too hot. Just ignore it. Just ignore it. It doesn't mean anything. Nothing bad will happen. Just get on with your life. As soon as you start flying, it'll be fine. Some flight controllers just run hot, and I don't know what causes it. Wow. We are 3 minutes from 10 o'clock. That was fun. I actually don't look back at those photographs in a long time.
Got 2 more super chats. I don't know if you want to grab those.
Oh, we do? Nah, we won't get those. No, I'm joking. What's the best antenna for the DJI V2 goggles? DJI Raw FPV, thank you for a $2 super chat. I would say a solid choice is the iFlight Crystal. The Lumineer Axie HD is also solid, but I think it's a little more expensive. Both of those are very solid. They're not going to give you the absolute maximum range, but they'll give you good range, and they're low profile and easy to store. Black Jungle, thank you for 5 reais. Suggest upgrades for Walk Snail and DJI V2 on my website. We've got some of that, don't we? We have an accessories section. We have an accessories section. If I look in the HD systems and we go to the Walk Snail avatar, we should have accessories here, don't we? Yeah. So I think this is what you're asking for, isn't it? I guess there's no... I'm not sure if it's exactly what you're asking for, but there you go. We have something like what you're asking for. Alrighty. That is gonna do it for the stream, guys. Aaron Ciotti is going to be streaming. He is the AOS 3.5 ESC installation with soldering tips and Q&A, of course. He's going to be streaming, and we're going to let him do it. Thank you guys so much for coming out, and I'll see you tomorrow for the news. Oh, yeah. For once, I'm going to finish 1 minute early instead of going late and making Ciati sit there while I wait. All right, we caught up, Blunty?
We're caught up.
All right, let's talk about that gaming idea some more. I think at the very least, like, there are a couple games we could probably play and it would be a fun stream. But then I kind of like the idea of, like, you take a game that you've played and then I play it cold. I don't know. Maybe that would be interesting. Would that be interesting for you? It'd be kind of boring.
Yeah.
You'd just be sitting there watching me play a game.
I mean, no. I think that would be good.
All right, maybe we'll do that. But
We
for
gotta figure out
now,
what game it depends on what game it is. We'll figure it out.
it could be Elden Ring. Maybe I'll finally finish Elden Ring.
Maybe. I think I'd rather have like a. I don't know. We'll talk about it.
You just sit there. You sit there while for an hour and a half while I die 500 times to the same boss. Yeah, it's super interesting for you. Dodge, you fuck. Get better. All right, bye guys.
Bye.